Oh, look, to be honest, I don't think there's enough education at a very early level. And when I have this discussion with many, if not all my clients about what did you learn before you met me, as in what did you learn in high school? What did you learn from your mother or your grandmother? And the only thing that was ever really taught was how not to get pregnant. Yeah. And it was pretty much use a condom or some form of barrier method or go on the pill. Yeah. And the problem with that is that that's pretty much, not only is that glossed over because there's sort of awkwardness to sex ed and 15-year-olds and 16-year-olds, is that for me, I'm such a strong believer that there should be, you know, the average female gets sort of a period anywhere from the age 15, 14, 15, sort of 16. I'm saying average. There are people that get it in primary school, unfortunately, and there are people that get it late. But there should be a dedicated class for menstrual health and body awareness. And that's a huge problem because, when it comes to the fertility realm, there is an expectation that, you ovulate at day 14. Yeah, and it's a myth. It's not a myth, but it's does not hold true for most females. So the amount of females that have then fallen pregnant with myself isn't through just the treatment per se. A lot of the times it actually just is education. I will get them to chart their menstrual cycles. I will get them to see, and that's another common misconception. A lot of females, whether you're trying to conceive or whether you're trying to use natural methods for contraception, will count the first day of them not bleeding as day one, not knowing that it's the first day of your bleed, like proper bleed, that is day one. And then you count from there. And then to advance things further, I will often get females to do what's called a basal body temperature, which is just tracking their morning temperature. So first thing upon rising, they just use a thermometer. And we use that. Okay, this is going to teach you a lot about your cycle. It's going to get you to just have just general awareness in the sense of how long is your period? Do you get spotting afterwards? So do you bleed for 3 days and then for some reason it just gets really spotting? It's not really bleeding properly. Does it do a stop start? How are you feeling in the first part of your menstrual cycle? So there are 4 phases of your menstrual cycle. You've got the follicular, ovulatory, luteal phase, and of course the menstrual phase, which is the bleeding phase. Many females don't, most females that I encounter, unless they've seen it through Instagram or something, don't even know that there are 4 phases. You know what I mean? Or if we break it down into follicular and luteal phase, 2 phases, they just see it as one big blob and blur. And it concerns me, you know what I mean? Because I have a daughter now and I want to make sure that as she grows up, she is body literate and that she's aware of all these different things. And that's what further, I knew that one day God would probably give me a girl because of what I do. I knew it was coming. And the other thing as well is that, with women, it's like, what is acceptable pain? As a society, and we can go back into history as to why this happened. We know there is a deep sexism in the medical field with regards to males versus females. Do you know what I mean? Females are often not studied because them falling pregnant becomes a bother to studies. Yeah, it fudges their figures. We know that women are more likely to have an adverse reaction to drugs. Yeah, but these are things that just aren't discussed. So there's a real sexism in the field of research and medicine between females and males, and females are believed to have to suffer. There's this idea that comes from religion and Christianity and Catholicism, where because of the whole Adam and Eve story, it is the burden of women to go through pain. You know what I mean? It's just something that's been, and that was again indoctrinated into us as it went on, and it's sort of gone into different fields. We think that women should suffer. And so when I see them in the clinic and we're talking about period pain as an example, the most common thing that I will hear is like, yeah, everyone gets period pain. I'm like, do they? Are you sure about that? And then where would you scale subjectively your pain? Yeah, are you a 2 naproxenic Nurofen Panadol sort of girl? Are you a 10 naproxenic? Are you a hot water bottle? And that does the trick, because that tells me as a practitioner what we're looking at. Are we looking at a deeper condition like endometriosis? Are we looking at a cyst? Are we looking at just really bad period pain that's not related to endometriosis? Or are we looking at something else? Do you know what I mean? Do I need to send you off for further blood work and, ultrasounds and, a different, do we get a GP on board to collaborate with me so that we can get you the best outcome? But it still is very scary that many women think that period pain is normal. That, I've met so many different women where Western medicine can't figure out what's happening. And this might be that a female is bleeding every 2 weeks. Yeah. And when I look at them and they're like, look, I've had my scans, I've, checked my iron levels, I don't have a fibroid, I don't have a thyroid issue, blah, blah, blah. All right, cool. So let's just say, because there's a difference between the medical range and then the functional medicine range, which I look at, but that's probably like a whole different podcast. And let's just say everything did check out. For me, I'm like, cool. So tell me about your emotional state. Tell me about what's happening at home. Yeah. What is the ongoing pressure or stress that you have that is affecting your menstrual cycle? Yeah. And these are questions that generally aren't asked, with the GP, because the GP has 5 minutes with you because they've already got the next person sort of waiting and yada, 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 which is a whole different, sort of problem. Whereas with me, again, it's trying to get down to their root cause. Are you doing too much in life in general? Do you know what I mean? We're all in this rat race. We're all the word, we're all hustling, trying to make a business and do this, sell online products and whatever else, but it comes at a cost. Yeah. The amount of clients that I've met and they still don't realize that, getting up at 5 a.m. and going to sleep at 2 a.m. is going to have a drastic impact on your ability to conceive. Now, if you've been doing that for 20 years and you're now in your late 30s, then statistically, it is a lot harder for you to fall pregnant. And if somebody doesn't tell you the truth about your sleep patterns, there's not really much that we can do. Yeah, we need to look at your age. We need to look at what's called oxidative stress, which is the damage that's been done to the cells because of what you've been doing throughout your lifetime. The smoking, the drinking, the alcohol, the sleep, the stress, the micronutrient depletion, the overtraining, the undereating. There's so much that goes into every woman that I see, because I want every woman that I see to change their perspective on women's health. To understand that you don't have to go through pain, that you don't have to go through suffering, that you don't have to be infertile. That if you work hard enough with the right people, it's not always just me. There's often a solution.
Bloody beautiful, mate. I'd also add to that, I think education for us blokes as well is important.
I would definitely lump a lot of men in there. Because when I drag the husband or partner in with me, I try and make sure that they're not on their phone. I want them to partake in the journey that is fertility or pain. Again, with regards to, say, endometriosis, so I see a lot of endometriosis. And, the main thing that females, or whether it be trying to conceive, but the main presentation is really debilitating pain. And the pain that can be experienced is like nothing there's nothing that I can really compare, because I've got females that have endometriosis, and when their pain kicks in, they actually pass out. Their pain threshold goes so high, they pass out. They're found on their floor by a family member, and their family member, it's just become like this, like, all right, poor Jenny is, had a menstrual cycle.
Yeah. Wow.
Usual. I'm like, no, you shouldn't go through this. Obviously, that's why they're seeking professional help now, because they're like, cool, they're petrified of their period, or they've sought the Western route, or they use the pill, they use the Mirena, they use like a nasal spray. There's all these different methods. But a lot of the women either don't want to take these drugs that have severe side effects, or they have used them and they're not working anymore. But the reason I tell this story is that a lot of these people have partners, like men, that don't understand it, because we don't get periods. Yeah. So it's very hard for us to empathize. And a lot of the times I've seen couples where I like to get the man in to understand that this pain, I will tell them, like, this pain is like someone putting, it's like someone putting a toothpick in your pee hole and then just moving it around. It's something that you need to understand. Yeah. So you say that to a guy and they're like, oh yeah, that would be really, really messed up. Now imagine that still times 100. Now imagine that happening, on a like once a month at least, and then there's ovulation pain, and then there's pain outside of that. And then you try and educate the man. Yeah, this female, this partner that you have right next to you needs your support physically, emotionally. Bring that hot water bottle to her. Yeah. Nourish her. Maybe when she's got her period, maybe make a soup for her, create something for her. Yeah. Because that emotional support lends to the healing component of that female. Because endometriosis isn't just about the physical pain, which is what Western medicine is trying to look at. The physical pain, let's numb it. Let's look at the hormonal drivers like estrogen and the lack of progesterone. Let's look at things like sometimes they look at thyroid. There is a deep emotional component to it. A lot of endometriosis sufferers unfortunately have a history of sexual abuse. Yeah. And they carry that with them. Yeah. And then there's a point in time where there's a stressful event and their endo pain starts to activate. It starts to become a real problem. Yeah. And it usually comes, I can usually have a chat to a lot of females and say, hey, I don't want to get into the details, but did something happen to you? Do we need to get a psychologist on board? Do we need to get someone else that can facilitate that? Because if that's what it takes to get you better, then that's what I'm going to do. Yeah, I'm going to do my part, which is to look at your gut health, hormonal health, thyroid health, the health of the uterus, and mediate your pain, and then help with herbal medicine, help with nutrition. But that psychological part, as much as we can take the edge off, my personal preference is to work with someone and say, hey, here's Jenny. She sort of disclosed this to me, and I really want Jenny to get better. And I've had a discussion to her partner. He's now aware that he has to cook for her when she's got a period. So we're doing everything we can to introduce people to make that individual feel supported. And the role of the man is super important. And we need to take that back to high school.
Absolutely. And it just makes for a better relationship. I'm not perfect, but when I started to understand Kristen's cycle more, you even understand, when sometimes perhaps they're being a bit irrational, and it's like, oh, that's all right. They're at this phase. She's at this phase. I understand that now. It's okay. It's not even personal. She's just in the big problems with everything phase. That's cool, But then there's other times when it's different, wow, they're really wanting to go out there and be in the world and be sexy, and you can support that too, And so I think it's critical for the blokes in the partnership to understand that as well. It allows them to be a better lover, a better partner, and support their partner in a better and on a deeper level than just like, oh yeah, she's on her rags. It's like, yeah. That's disgusting.
Or the other one is like you're PMSing.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the fastest way to get stabbed in your sleep. It's not something that I, and I'm very fortunate that I fell into this, this particular branch of, treatment style and people that I see. It was never my intent. It was essentially someone said that it couldn't be done. And then my brain was like, watch me do it. And as I was doing it, so that was the motivation. Somewhere along the line, it turned into my inspiration. And it's something that I wake up to. I literally read anywhere from half an hour to an hour on something to do with women's health, almost every day, so that I can understand all the little nuances of how what you said before, how the hormones affect the brain, how the brain affects and the nervous system affects the reproductive system. And, I think that there's so much to learn, and I don't think it's ever going to be, the research is continuing. Like endometriosis is an example, which is something that I look at all the time, or PCOS or thyroid infertility. It keeps evolving. So I keep reading and learning. Because it's a field that deserves so much attention because it's been neglected for so many years. And wherever I can, I will teach males and be like, hey, don't use that terminology anymore.
Yeah.